Hey, recording. Okay, let me go. Live on Facebook. All right. Let's see. Then I have to click. Okay, guys, I see us. Let me tag you guys.
Yay.
That was easy, Shay. We normally have, we be having some issues. Okay, hold on. Knowledge, you see it on your end?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. Okay. I think we're good. Volume's down. Okay, all right. Shayla, that was that was the easiest transition I think we've ever had. My God. Shayla, the look does look a little different, but it's fine. It's just you're at the bottom. We got knowledge at the top and me at the top. So it looks good. It's just
Yeah,
different.
I don't know why that's what I was saying. I don't know why I'm not like right here, but okay.
Okay, well, whatever. Let's get it.
Right.
Looking for love in did y'all know they have a song called that? It's like a
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Looking for love in too many places. Looking for love.
But Mel, they got a whole country song. Is it country, Shay?
I think it's several. I think they got several songs like that.
Well,
Yeah,
listen, if they made a song, child, it's something going on.
Right.
Old school joy.
Right. Okay, so looking for love in all the wrong places. This is the title. I would love to take credit for the title, but I got to give it to Shayla. She texted me one day and was like, we should have a conversation about looking for love in all the wrong places. And I was like, okay, well, we need to co-tag this up with somebody, a male. And of course, we got our knowledge born. So thank you. Let's start with the introductions. I am Erika Genice. I have dope conversations, of course, with dope people. We have Shayla Locklear, and bear with me on this title, okay? She is a high performance coach for high net worth and ultra high net worth entrepreneurs, executives, business, and marketing consultants. Did I get it right, Shay?
Perfect.
Yeah. And we got Knowledge Born, who is
he is what he is. He's all things of all things.
All things. He's an entrepreneur. He is one of my friends. I was telling Shay, man, we have known each other since we were, 13, Shay? 13, 14? Yeah. Summer Fest, Afro Fest.
Yeah.
Fest.
All that.
Yeah, so we go back many of years, but he's also an entrepreneur. He has the BU brand, which I have a couple hoodies. I love it. Mel, I'll drop your information down in the inbox too, so they can go and shop your store. I love it. What is BU, if you don't mind? If you could just give us a highlight real quick.
Well, it's really, I made it for just for people to be themselves. It's Rep BU, and it stands for represent being yourself. Because at the end of the day, we can talk about being ourselves, but you have to be a representation of what you really are. You know what I mean? It's easy to say certain things as opposed to acting on it. So the whole message is designed for people to actually represent being themselves. And hey, some people gonna like you, some people gonna dislike you, but be who you are.
Yeah, no one dislikes you, Mel. Okay.
No, I'm just saying. Oh yeah.
I love it. Let's jump right into it. So I've been starting these conversations with quotes, and I was in between two. I normally just do one, but I could not pick from the two of them. So I'll say them, and then we can talk about them really quickly. So the first quote is, I soon realized the thoughts that occupied valuable space in my mind were not in alignment with affirmations such as I love myself. And the second one is, it's all about falling in love with yourself and sharing that love with someone who appreciates you, rather than you looking for love to compensate for a self-love deficient. Let me read that one more time.
Yeah, go ahead. Do that one more time. Run that.
Run that back real quick.
I got to get it.
It's all about falling in love with yourself and sharing that love with someone who appreciates you, rather than for love to compensate for a self-love deficient. So essentially, you getting with somebody because you don't love yourself, and you're hoping and you're wishing for this person to feel some sort of deficiency. Do y'all feel like that happens a lot?
Oh my God. I think that is 90% of relationships, because there's the saying that's perpetuated, which I absolutely despise, is like, this person, or I'm looking for somebody to complete me. And the other one's like, I can't live without that person or without that thing, all those things. And I'm like, all of that sounds great on like the movie screen, but in real life, it's just a codependent relationship, meaning like, I don't even love myself enough to like, I'm depending on other people for self-love. And when you do that, that's always going to fail. They're never going to treat you the way that you think you should be treated. They're never going to love you the way that you feel that you need to be loved. And if you don't have that like framework or that baseline for yourself, then you're going to be willing to fall for absolutely anything. And so when you have that self-love in place for yourself initially, then anybody else coming in, you know what you will accept or won't accept, and you know the type of love or the type of like feeling that you desire because you give it to yourself. So I think it's very important to understand that versus like, I'm looking for somebody to love me. It's the same thing where even like, I mean, we'll talk about this later, but like, even like when people have kids because they don't want somebody to love you. And I'm like, maybe not, Yeah,
that's so good. So here's the first question. I'm gonna throw it to you, Knowledge. How does a person know if they're looking for love in all the wrong places? And furthermore, what the hell is wrong place?
Okay, so here's my thoughts on that.
Okay.
It's like, imagine if you're looking for like your car keys, right? You come in a house, you put them somewhere, then say 8 hours later, you need to go back out, right? And you're looking for them, but you cannot find the car keys. This automatically means that you're looking in the wrong place because the car keys are there. They're there.
Yeah.
You're just looking in the wrong place. So essentially, if you're not finding love, it's obvious that you're looking in the wrong place, because if you was looking in the right place, you will find love.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So the wrong place, you just simply hit the wrong place.
Where it's not working.
It's not working. You know what I mean? And a lot of people have that though, but they keep trying to make something work. It's like keep looking in the same exact spot for the keys. They're not going to magically show up. Yeah. You're going to have to change some form of thinking. You're going to have to you're going to have to do something different in order to achieve something different. A lot of people is looking in the exact same place, trying to find the exact same person that they had before that didn't work before.
Yeah, that's real. What you think, Shay?
Yeah.
You agree, Shay?
I definitely agree. Yeah. The wrong place is the thing is there are generalized places where I feel are probably not the best places to find love, but also I do understand that these things are it can be dependent on each individual, right? Because at the end of the day, like, we don't necessarily go to the club to find love, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. That doesn't mean it didn't happen, right?
That last drink, that last dance.
And that doesn't mean that like You know, 'cause there's so many stories of like, oh my God, yeah, definitely didn't think that I would find love in the strip club, but I did, right? But generally, probably not, right? Like we know the things that happen at these specific these specific places, and you want to steer clear of that because there are a lot of stereotypical situations that you put yourself in that will end up very much like the stereotype. But that being said, yes, it's what happens is we tend to look for love externally. And that is the issue, because if we haven't figured out by now, everything starts internally, or everything starts in the spirit before it comes to the 3D. So that's love as well. So if we're starting to look for things like outside of ourselves in another human or another individual and expect that to actually work when we haven't necessarily done the work inside of ourselves first, then most likely it's not going to end up the way that you desire.
Yeah, 100%.
Most people.
What you say? What you say? No.
I think that's majority of people though. You know what I mean? Like they're looking for love everywhere else but within themselves.
Yeah.
So I agree definitely with Taylor said.
Yeah, 100%. Which hence is the topic, right? I think people thought that we were about to give them dating advice and where to go and how. No, this is all about you. You're looking for love in all the wrong places because you're looking for it with other people and not with yourself. And it's really hard to try to love another human being when you don't even love yourself. So love yourself first, right? You hear this, they have all sort of mantras and quotes and pictures. What does love yourself mean to you, Knowledge? If you had to just give a quick definition of I love myself because of, or whatever, what does that look like to you?
For me personally, loving myself is putting myself first. Now, a lot of people get this messed up because what they mean it, what a lot of people think is that it's being selfish, which it is to a certain extent, in a good way.
In a good
you know
way.
What I mean? So what I think it means is, for me personally, is loving yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, taking care of yourself first. Because if you do not take care of yourself first, it's no possible way you can take care of anybody else. You see what I'm saying? So me personally, my family know I'm getting in the gym, I'm engaging in personal development early in the morning. It's my time. I get my time to do these things. Because if I'm not right mentally, if I'm not right physically, emotionally, I can't be right for my wife and my children. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, that's what loving yourself means for me personally. You know what I mean? But of course, it's different for different individuals. But taking care of you first.
Yeah, I would hate to think, and I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure it varies, but I would hate that definition would vary so far from each person, because there has to be a sense of myself and taking care of me first before I can give anything to anybody else. So kudos to you for acknowledging that too. Because, you know, you hear a lot of people, they give themselves the leftovers and give everybody else everything else.
A lot of people does that. You know what I mean? A lot of people, but you know how they go on the airplane, you have to put your oxygen mask on first. You know what I'm saying? I know I heard that before. Yes. When you're in an airplane, they tell you to do it first and then do your children. Because if you're trying to do your children's and then y'all fall and now you lose your oxygen, now your children ain't gonna have the oxygen as well. Because they don't know how to really use the mask because they small their children. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you have to put you first. And yes, it's a selfish thing, but selfish is not always bad when it's for the greater good. So
yeah, I hate that selfish has gotten this very negative connotation.
Right.
You know, you can't take care of yourself and you can't do this and you can't do this because it appears to be selfish. And it's like, you have to have a sense of self or you'll lose it, which is why people have no self identity, because you've lost it to everything else but yourself. What's self-love to you, Shayla?
Yeah, we use the word selfish, and so it does have a bad connotation, but if you actually look at the world, it's not so much. But I also like to say like self-centered, because it starts with you. You are the center of your world. And so selfish, people look at selfish as like greedy or it's kind of taken in regard to like ego. But when you think of like self-centered, it's like, I am the center of my world. I matter most, because there's no way that I can give my very similar to what you guys said. There's no way I can give my all if my cup's not full. And as parents, especially women, we're taught to be selfless, and that's love. And that's not really, because we're giving, like, if you think about it, we're giving from half full cups, and we're like saying that that's love. And if you think about it, like, we're giving everybody else scraps and giving ourselves like literally zero. But if you fill yourself up first, if you're self-centered, if you're selfish, then you're giving from overflow, which is like the best thing that you can give to the world. A lot of people don't like the idea of self-centeredness or selfishness because it doesn't fit into their standards or their like, they want something from you. So if you put you first, right, then that means there's less for them. Or if you create the boundary, like, that's what they don't like. So of course they're going to tell you, oh, that's rude, that's this, that's that, oh, that's being a bad parent, that's this, because it's not included in their way of life or their way of thinking, and they understand that means that's less for them.
Yes.
Or they can't maneuver the way they want to maneuver in your life. So therefore, that's one of the biggest challenges. But loving yourself first, or selfishness or self-centeredness, is really just understanding, like, what it's like, giving to yourself all that you would require of somebody else. Okay. And so that's a big issue, because what happens is you require other people to give you the love that you're not giving yourself, and you wonder why you're not getting all of this. And you lean on other people so much, and then that's where relationships break down and all this stuff, because they're like, you're not making me happy, and you're not doing this, and you're not doing that, because you're depending on somebody else to give you something that you should already have. When you already have it, when you already love yourself, then the actions of other people aren't going to bother you as much. And also, you know how to maneuver. If they're not adding anything to your life, then they can peace out, because I give myself everything that I need. I love myself, and I understand what that looks like. And if you're not adding, if you're not at least meeting me where I meet myself, then what good are you in my life?
Yeah. And I want to touch on this happiness thing real quick, because I know, Knowledge, you talk about happiness a lot just on your posts, and just how people look for external things to bring them joy and happiness. Can you touch on happiness just real quick for the people? Just drop it for them. Give it to them.
I believe that's one of the keys to just life, you know what I'm saying? Productive life, or progressive life. It's just being happy, you know, finding your happiness. You know what I mean? Even in relationships, a lot of people, I'm more so of a person, before I got married, I've never been really concerned with marriage. I just been concerned with a person making me happy. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, for me, happiness is it's a energy that keeps you moving. When you down, when you sad, you don't move the same as when you happy. Now, sad is not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? Sad is definitely not a bad thing. We're humans. We're going to experience these human emotions, how it goes. You know what I mean? But happiness is one of those things, man. I think that a lot of people search for cliche things and never really search for the things that really, truly, truly make them happy. And they also search for things that society says that they need to search for in order to make them happy, instead of finding what really, truly makes them happy and going for it.
What's some of the cliche things?
Cliche things could be materialistic things, whether it be houses, cars, and I got my own story with that. For me to figure out that wasn't the thing to get me happy, you know what I mean? But it could be houses, cars, it could be the looks of women, the looks of men, you know what I mean? Just the whole cliche thing. The
looks of yourself too, right? Like, I think people feel like if they, and you know, we all work out on here, and all of that is great, right? But I've known a person who was essentially 400 pounds and got down to like 200 pounds, which great, right? But you're still the same person, and they still weren't happy. And so I think people start looking at it like, if I look good, if I'm this size, if I'm this, that has nothing to do with happiness. That just means that you're trying to keep yourself healthy. Happiness is internal.
Right,
It's that
right.
self-love. You can't outrun that. You can't out gym that, out car that, out house that. You can't. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
That's why, they say people take all these trips in the world, and at the end of the day, you come back to you.
Mm-hmm. Because you can't run from you. You
can't run. You can move from Milwaukee to Dallas to Phoenix, and guess what? Knowledge is still knowledge.
And there you are.
And there you
go.
Damn.
You are who you are. So,
yeah. And that's the thing that's really interesting, because my client base, I work with people who are 9, 10, 11, 12 figures. And what people assume is the fact that, like, hey, because they have all of this money, every single problem is solved. There's no issues, there's no problems. And if there is, like, you have enough money to pay for it. But the experience that I've had and that I've seen within my clients is there's no amount of money that is going to take away the very real feelings that you have about yourself, whatever that is. Yep. And I don't care if you were born into money or you like earned it and got there, it's a whole different avenue. And so nothing is going to take away, like, no amount of money will take away your human experience. You're going to feel what you're going to feel. And yes, it looks like you can outdo that with Rolls Royces and set millions of dollars in the bank and stocks and this and that, but that's not true. And if you also look at some of the richest people in the world, look at our celebrities that people look up to and all of these things, they are not what you think it is. Like, it's not happiness. And why do you think people are struggling, especially in the higher ranks, struggling with addiction, struggling with like, what is it? Like body dysmorphia, like all this plastic surgery that's done. I'm not against plastic surgery, by the way. Let me just say that. But all the plastic surgery that is done to look like somebody else, and it's still you inside. Like you said, it's still very much you. All the things that the whole, like, unfortunately, but also the truth, the whole like rap community, cars, clothes, bitches, this, that, all of that stuff is the front, because none of those dudes, none of them are happy. And then the women who say money is going to make them happy, right? Who deal with all the dudes like that, they're still trying to get wifed up. And they will never be the thing that they want to be. It doesn't matter how much money these people have, doesn't matter how much surgery that they have. Yeah. So it's an epidemic that we're having, that we're trying to show that money is the answer. Money was never the answer. Money is the tool. None of these things are wrong. You can have as many houses, as many cars, whatever you want. Like, that's why that's why it's on this earth. We can have it, but you have to understand it doesn't make you, and it's not going to make you happy. But what tends to happen is you don't realize that until you get it. Yeah. And then you're like, it's that fleeting moment of like 5 seconds. You're like, whoa, yes, I got this shit. I'm the shit. And then you're like, wait, this is it. But I'm still. And why do I still feel this way? Yeah. Because that was never the problem.
Yeah. You're chasing everything but yourself. Period. You could chase money, females, men, cars, jobs, titles. None of that will amount to how you feel about yourself internally. Mm-hmm. None of it.
Yeah, it's people who have all those things and still, if, like I always say, if money and stuff made people happy, you wouldn't have millionaires and commit suicide. Yeah. It was all about that, you know what I mean? So it's more depending on who you are as a person, like I said, happiness is defined based on the individual, but for the most part, a lot of stuff that people are chasing and they're still not happy, it's because they don't have happiness within inside themselves. And they're not searching for it because they're looking for stuff that society told them they need to have in order to be happy.
Yeah. Why do you feel like it's so hard, Knowledge, for people to genuinely just love themselves?
Because I think it's a program, especially with social media and all that type of stuff. It's always, people tend to compare themselves to other people. You know what I mean? And if they got this, they feel a certain way. That they don't. They look like this, they might feel a certain way. Plus, for so long, you know what I mean? Our people have been told that big lips is ugly, big nose is ugly, a certain color of your skin, you know what I mean? If you don't have fair skin, you're ugly, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of this type of stuff be programmed within the parents, and they unconsciously pass it on to the children. And then now with the whole social media thing, where everything is filtered. You know what I mean? Everything is filtered videos, filtered photos, filtered words that you speak. It's all one of those things of, it's hard to find out who the hell you are in today's time. You know what I mean? Because everybody wants you to be you until you don't agree with who they are. And then there's a problem.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I think it's harder today just because of that. And it's hard for people to really just sit down. Like I had a conversation with one of my brothers the other day, and I'm like, have you ever just sat down and really thought about who you were? You know what I mean? Not who your mama told you was, not who your pastor told you was, not who your therapist told you was, not none of that. Just literally have a conversation to find out who you are. And I think a lot of people don't sit down with themselves.
Ooh.
They get their stuff from other people. You know what I mean? And then that who they say they are, but nobody really sitting down with themselves and talking to themselves and trying to figure out, how did I get this way? What programming did I attach myself to in order to get where I'm at? Because where you at is where you chose to be, period.
That's so
You know what I
good.
mean?
Yeah. Shayla and I called her today. When I went to church and then I left and I went to breakfast, and I called her, and I was just having an experience where, like, I am starting to, and not isolating myself, but I'm just really starting to be like, damn, I'm fun as hell by myself.
For a fact.
Like,
Yeah.
I've been going to like different restaurants and just literally all by myself. Yesterday, I went to a friend, she had a game night and it was super fun. But prior, I went to have an old fashioned at this place that I absolutely love. It's super high class. They a little bougie, and I just love the vibe, right? All by myself. And I was talking to a couple and they were like, I would have never hung out by myself. And I'm like, that's the problem.
Right.
People don't like them. They blame it on, it's just boring. And how am I going to go to the movies by myself? And how am I? You don't like you. If you can't sit with yourself, I've had so many conversations just with myself on just listening to thoughts and reading. And it's amazing what you can figure out when you are in silence with yourself.
Yeah.
What you think, Shay? You agree?
I totally agree. I'm like literally the best person to myself. So it's like, you have to learn, like, it is a must that you learn to be okay with you. And I think I had a really early start with this because I feel like I've always been the black sheep. I've always been different from the crowd, even in my own family. So I had to learn very quickly, like, are you okay being you, or are you going to assimilate to what everybody else thinks that you should be based on this, this, and this? And I've always, Mel knows you, I've always been Shayla. Like, doesn't even matter. I've always been me. So I had an early lesson in that. Many people don't. Many people follow with the crowd and have to learn along the way, like, I don't like any of these people. I actually don't like who I'm being, but they're afraid to like jump out of the crowd.
Yeah.
And I've never been with a crowd. I've always been pretty, like, I've been a butterfly. I kind of flitter everywhere and land when I want to, and I'm pretty and it works, but I still have always been me. And so I think it's very important to learn what you like about you, learn what you like about how you look, learn what you like about who you are, and like accepting that you are you. Like, it's okay. And realizing that we are not meant to be the same. We're meant to, like, we were created to be unique individuals for a very specific reason. We all have different talents, different goals, different looks, all of that to create a beautiful world. And if we were all the same, it would be really, really boring. And it's not created that way. And I think sometimes, like, when we're talking about social media and all these things, we're creating there's people are worried about robots and clones taking over. Honey, we're already here. Look at everybody. Look at everybody. They look the same, they talk the same, they do, like, do you have a mind of your own? Do you have a brain of your own? And it is a little bit harder. We're not going to get political because, you know, you can't say some things, otherwise it's a big thing. You're going to, it's going to be an issue.
Don't get knowledge started.
I know.
I
You
go
can't say
all
everything that you want to say because, that's a big issue. And society does perpetuate that. Like, if you're not with the crowd, then it's like either you're for us or you're against us. And I'm like, no, there's black and there's white and there's gray. And we live in the gray all the time. And there's no, like, everyone thinks that there's the truth. But there are several truths depending on whose world that you're in. So that's a whole different other story. But you have to really, when you understand you, when you love you, when you really take the time and, like you said, spend time with yourself, get quiet with yourself, really realize the things that you like about you and what you want to do and all these other things, then guess what? The world's not so crazy because you realize who gives a shit, because I'm me.
Yeah.
And you get to work and walk the world through that. And do you know how many people like look at you and they're like, wow, like they're so confident, or they're so happy, or they're so whatever. I wish I could have that. And you're like, you can, if you just like really realize that. But people look at you because that's what they want. That thing they can't describe is you literally accepting you, loving you, being happy, enjoying your life. And so many people are trying to do something or be something that they're not, in order to achieve this goal that wasn't even theirs in the first place.
Yeah. Well, the inbox is lighting up, y'all. We got facts. We got it right on. Carolyn said, I am my best date. I love that. Yes, indeed. No one's different. God uniquely created each one of us, which is so true. So I have a question. Either one of you guys can tackle this one. Can you love yourself in some areas, but not in all, and still holistically acclaim self-love? So let me give you an example. So can a person work out, eat healthy, doing all the right things, but enjoy the toxicity of romantic relationships and still acclaim self-love? Or is it one or the other? Is it the whole package? One of y'all take it.
I think that we're multifaceted human beings. So yes, there's going to be areas in which, like you said, you may actually love yourself or love yourself more, and claim self-love. But then there's other pieces that like you look and you're like, whatever. So for example, we talk about this all the time. There's the therapist who is in the toxic relationship and you're like, are you serious right now? Like, how is that even possible?
We talk about that all the time.
Like, I'm like, what? Like, how are you this smart? How are you a doctor? How do you have a PhD in this shit? And you literally have the worst husband or boyfriend ever. Like, it's not making sense. Like, make it make sense, honey. It's weird, but it's true. It's what happens all of the time. So when we say self-love, you can be, another one is you can be amazing in the gym. You could have the body of a fucking goddess, right? But you could have horrible self-talk. You can, once again, be in horrible relationships. You can downplay yourself all the time. Yeah. Like, there's so many different things. You can have great relationships with your significant other, but have a horrible relationship with your family. And that's a whole, and when we're looking at things holistically, then it's not fully self-love. There's areas in which we could work, but to say that we are beautifully flawed humans. And so we get to work on all of these things consistently because it's a journey and it's always going to evolve and change. So I want to say that you can have these experiences in pockets of your life and still have self-love, because humans are humans. We're flawed. Yeah. The difference is the awareness and working through it versus like, yo, I'm this, and this. And you're like, honey, you're not. Like, literally, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. What you think, Knowledge?
Oh yeah, you definitely can have. I'm dang, I forgot the question, but
You want me to, I can repeat it.
yeah, read it back.
So essentially, I was saying, can you love yourself in one area of your life?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the question, I'll just read the question. Can you love yourself in some areas, but in not all, and still holistically acclaim that you have self-love? And my example was, can you be super ripped, go to the gym, look amazing?
Oh yeah.
And claim that I have self-love because look how great I'm taking care of my body, but then be in a abusive relationship or anything else that you perceive to kind of just be like, you're not really setting healthy boundaries. Can you still say that I have self-love? Look at me.
Yeah, I think you can in certain, I think you can in certain areas, but I think one major lack of discipline affects a large part of your life. You know what I mean? So you can in a sense, but it's like if you saying you have self-love, yet you're eating yourself into an early grave or doing things that might, not even eating, doing other activities might put you in an early grave, it would make me personally, as a person on the outside looking in, question the self-love that you claim to have for yourself. You know what I mean? So I think we all are constantly learning. So it's going to be certain ththings. It's self-love, but it's also self-understanding, like understanding who you are. So know your insecurities. It's not wrong. We all have insecurities. If a motherfucker tell you they don't got insecurities, they're lying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all have our own insecurities. I don't care. You can go to the gym all the time, but you might have a insecurity financially. You might have an insecurity I don't know, but we all have our own insecurities. You know what I mean? So I think you can have them both because we're human and we're just going to keep learning. And even certain things that you once was, you're not going to be that anymore 5 years from now. I'm not the same man that I was 5 years from now. Certain things that I may agree with 5 years ago, I don't agree with now. You know what I mean? And it's just like, that's how life is. It's constantly changing. You know what I mean? So I think you can, but if it's a major, like if you get abused.
Yeah.
Put like this, like if you claim to have self-love, but yet you constantly letting people abuse you physically, mentally, and all that, I can't see that being self-love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just can't, because that's just, to me, that's just too far left. You know what I mean? It's just too, you can't possibly love yourself if you let somebody put hate upon you like that.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? So that's just me. You know what I mean? I don't think if once it's extreme that it can go to make me be like, no, there's no possible way you can have any form of self-love dealing in the situation that you're dealing in. But I understand that, yes, you can love yourself in some areas and have flaws that you want to change. And I think that's good. I think you should always be trying to grow. I think you should always be trying to change and make things better, because at the end of the day, nothing in this joint is perfect. Nothing. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it all, is that you can always grow, because once it's perfect, it's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I always say you've never really arrived, right? Like
never.
You may arrive in some areas and you're like, damn, now I got to deal with this.
Yeah.
There's always something. So I love that. First of all, I love that question that I asked. It was amazing. Because I was thinking about it, right? I was thinking about just like self-love, right? Like, can I love myself and still allow other things? And the reality of it is yes, you can be aware, like you guys said, but it's also about changing those things too, right? So, not having healthy boundaries at work, that could be a lack of self-love. You're giving too much of yourself, but are you aware enough to make the changes? And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, understanding what you are, knowing yourself. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And I think like I use this, and I know it's like it's a small slight difference, but I don't like the word change, because here's, in my world, this is what it means. So change runs along the line of knowledge. I read a book, I know something different. That means there's a change that happens. Transformation is along the line of supernatural. So transformation is when we actually do the thing, because there's a lot of people who know a lot of shit, and that doesn't mean anything.
That don't mean nothing. Yeah,
nothing. It's actually what we're doing, how we're transforming, how we're alchemizing that information, that knowledge to actually become the thing. It's your beingness. Like, we all read, we all know what we should be doing. But are we actually doing? Are we actually transforming the energy, alchemizing the energy, and creating that of ourselves?
Yeah, that's good. Knowledge born.
Mm-hmm.
What areas of self-love do you feel like men suffer the most in, and why?
What areas? Rephrase it. What areas of self-love? I don't know if this will answer the question, but one thing I do know about men is men are some of the most insecure beings on the planet. Like, they're very insecure. But the thing about men is we've been taught so long that we can't show our emotions. You know what I mean? Like, we only can show either the happy side or the macho side. You know what I mean? But when it comes to being vulnerable, affectionate, emotional, we don't really show that side. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I don't know how to really answer that.
Yeah.
Now, what was said again? Say it one more time.
Okay, so it's what area of self-love or we can say you give an example of you. So what area of self-love do you feel like you have suffered in the most? And maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be now, but just in general, like, this is the hardest part to love about me.
You know what? I've been me for quite some time. Since, just I know what the hardest part to love about me is that I'm just brutally honest with people. I've always been that way. You know what I mean? So it can get kind of lonely, I should say, because you got to understand, when you're a person who really, really just gives people a lot of things, you say is things that people don't want to hear. A lot of people not going to come and talk to you. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people want to get told things they want to hear as opposed to what they need to hear, and you're not going to give them that. You see what I'm saying? So you're the person that's kind of off limits for conversation, or we don't want to hear what he got to say type of thing. So I guess in a sense, it could get not lonely, because I don't know, like, far as that go. I think men suffer though with just insecurities, like a lot of insecurities, be it financial insecurities, or if they're not looks wise, body wise, they suffer with these type of things. Affection wise, men want affection. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether they say it or not, a lot of men want affection. You know what I mean? They like attention as well. You know what I mean? But a lot of men won't say that. So I think they suffer. I think once you love yourself enough, you love yourself enough to admit that type of stuff.
I love that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of men don't admit that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Because they don't understand themselves, and maybe they lack some love within themselves. You know what I'm saying? So they hide themselves. Now, I don't believe if you really, really love yourself, you will hide anything about you.
Yeah.
Because you love you.
Yeah.
There's nothing to
Self-love
hide.
is so transparent. I love that. That's deep. Self-love is about being transparent to yourself.
To yourself. And then it's going to come out with other people, period. Because you can't lie to yourself. You can lie to other people, but when you in a mirror, you can't lie to yourself. You can't run from yourself. You know what I mean? So once you really begin to really love yourself, the opinions of people, we all, at some form of fashion, kind of want to be liked in a sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's not going to really affect you once you really know who you are, especially if your actions have shown to be true and you have been progressing with who you are in life. You know what I'm saying? Then it's hard for anybody to say anything to you, because what you're doing and who you're becoming and who you are is working.
Yeah, I love that.
You see what I'm saying? So,
yeah. Shay, what areas of self-love do you feel like women suffer in the most, and why?
I think a lot of women suffer externally, especially like the beauty standards and things of that sort. I think that, and I know myself personally have gone through my ups and downs with this, but I think that women don't honor themselves. I think that they're very much so like, like we talked about, if I look a certain way, then like, that is what's going to keep a man. That is what's going to do the things. That's what's going to attract the right types of people to me. That's what's going to give me all the opportunities. And here's the thing, like, the truth behind the matter is, like, myself, I'm not going to say I haven't gotten opportunities because of the way that I look, but honey, I can walk it like I talk it. Like, I didn't just get in there and do nothing. That has nothing to do with it. It's a little icing on the cake. It's a cherry on top. Yes. But like, I did the damn work. Better than most people, by the way. So I think like, and understanding that men Like, we think that men are visual creatures. Yes, they absolutely are. But the other thing goes, like, it's so funny when us men, like us women, like, okay, you break up with the dude, right? And the next girl who he wifes, you're like, that bitch is ugly. Like, how is that possible? And because we thought it was about the looks. It's
and
not.
right when you say that, you answer your
it's
own
not
question.
about that.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have a, like, once again, if we want to look at celebrities, look at all these beautiful women who can't keep a fucking man. It's more to do with who you are inside, but society will tell you different.
Yeah.
And we struggle with that because we're like, well, what do I do? How do I make this work? If I just focus on the outside stuff, that's what's going to get me what I want. And that's not true. The external is absolutely part of it.
Yeah.
But what typically happens is people try to win, or they try to win from the outside in instead of the inside out. And that's something that you heard our parents say, like, beauty starts from the within. And you're like, fuck that. Like, that's not true. But it's 100%, when you get there, it's 100% true.
It's so true.
Because you can be so pretty and so ugly at the same time.
Yeah.
And so women, I think a lot of us hyper focus on beauty, not to say that it's not important, not to say you can't be beautiful. Absolutely you can. But understand that you winning in life is so much bigger than the way that you look.
Yeah. And you showing up as you and you loving yourself, the looking for love in all the wrong places, that's you're not looking within. That is what actually is so attractive. And I think guys would, knowledge, you can speak on it, but okay. I think that is what, is the cherry on top. Like, yeah, she good. She looks amazing, but she has a horrible attitude. Her money, terrible. She's inconsistent. Like, looks, it's not that important when you really don't love yourself. And guys can read that shit a block away. And
they use it against you.
And
they're
women
smart.
Too, right?
I can that up.
Yeah. And of course, with just me having these conversations and studying a lot, I can tell that shit a mile away from a guy. Like, oh, he don't love himself. I don't give a shit how much you in the gym. I don't care how many books you read. Like, you don't even like yourself. You'll start, when you love yourself, you'll start recognizing people that don't necessarily like themselves and love themselves easier, I think. And I think that happens with the dating scene too, right? Like, being able to really, and I'm not gonna necessarily say red flags, but to be able to pick out a person and say, I don't think that they really like themselves. So if they don't like you themselves, how they gonna like you?
Right.
If they don't love themselves, how they gonna love you?
Right.
It just doesn't work like that.
And when you know who you are and you're aware of everything, you see that shit from a mile away. You can tell who you want from a mile away. You know what I mean? And who you don't want. You know what I'm saying? Right away. It don't take much time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never been one of them people. I've never understood, and maybe because I've just been so observant of people all my life, I've never really understood the I think the red flags and stuff is always there. I think they're always there. They're right there.
Not they're right there. They there like this. Hey, I'm a flag. How you doing? You don't see me?
Bright red, by the way.
It's right there. You know what I mean? But it's something in you that's not allowed when you letting something blind you from seeing it. But it's there. It's always there. You know what I mean? But once you get to learning you'll be able to pick up on the red flags like that. And people will weed themselves out of your life. Like, you ain't even got to do the weed. You ain't got to do the weed when you know who you are. People will weed themselves because they already know you're not going. They know it. You know what I'm saying? And they'll weed themselves out. You know what I mean? So knowing yourself and self-love, man, is key, especially when you're dealing in relationships with anyone.
Yeah. I think that is the challenging part, though, for, Shayla and I, of course, are single, and we realize the more healing that we get, it appears to be a lot harder.
It is gonna be hard
to date, because it's like,
listen. This is what I'm gonna say.
No. I see, and not being super hard on guys, but it's like the red flags. They like
they right there.
Hey,
but like, you have to learn. Like, here's the other thing with that. Like, yes, we may have like kind of glossed over the red flags before and everything else like that. But another thing about self-love is understanding how to like trust yourself. And we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust our intuition. We don't trust our guidance. And so that's why a lot of the red flags just kind of turn pink, because we're like, no, because we think that we're being this or that. And whatever you believe, God, angels, universe, whatever you believe, like they're gonna tell you, yo, if something's coming up in your spirit, you need to pay attention to that. And a lot of times we just like flag it off and this and that because we don't trust ourselves. We haven't created that conversation or that level of love with ourselves that we can trust that gut feeling that people talk about, that intuition is for your good. So when it comes to, like you said, when it comes to dating now, I don't believe, as much as we say it's harder, I don't believe it's harder. I believe we're so used to being in a specific pond with specific types of individuals that the uncomfortable part is now leaving that and going elsewhere. There's plenty of amazing men. There's plenty of amazing women. You got to move from where you are. Where you are got you all these broke ass dudes. That's not how it works. So... Sorry. Or women. Anyway, but like you have to be willing to like step out. Like that's the uncomfortable part because you're so used to this level. You're so used to this. And so you're not going to be able to expand beyond the borders that you've created. So you have to create new borders. You have to create new boundaries. You have to create, like, you have to step outside of that. And that's what, you know, like knowledge you were saying, you were like, it's not that it's lonely, but it's uncomfortable. You have to make the uncomfortable comfortable and the comfortable uncomfortable in order to move yourself to where you need to be, to where that next level guy is, to where like you don't have to look for flags. There's not the flags, because we sit there and we're like, oh my God, I see a flag. Well, bitch, when are you gonna move? Then we gotta go. If you see too many flags, like you're hanging around with a lot of people who have a lot of flags, and that says a lot about yourself. So that means, guess what? It's time for us to go to a flagless area. Okay.
Yo, let's
go over there.
That was my next. It's not even on my iPad. I promise you. That was going to be my next question: is how important is it for you to be around people who are in the space of self-love, or at least if they haven't necessarily arrived, they're arriving? Is that important for your growth in this area? Knowledge? Yeah.
To me, you have to be around like, I ain't gonna say like-minded people because we're all different and we can all offer each other different things. You know what I mean? So sometimes the minds is just different. It's what it is. But I believe you should surround yourself with people who want to grow. You know what I mean? Really want to grow in like whatever area that may be. You know what I mean? I could be growing in this area. You could be growing in that area, but we both understand growth. You know what I'm saying? We both understand growth. So yeah, your environment sometimes plays a lot into who you become, who you choose in your life. When you choose people, you choose your experiences. You do that. You know what I mean? You do that. So when you choose people to come into your life, you choose your experience, whether negative or positive.
Yeah.
You choosing that. You're literally choosing that. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times people don't believe that they choose a negative situation only because they didn't know the outcome. But just because you don't know the outcome don't mean you don't have the choice and you didn't choose that situation. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I believe, yes, hanging around certain people. Me, I've never been one to hang around a lot of people. You know, anybody who know me know. You know what I mean? I call it ASAP. Now I can't vibe with that person. You know, so even if I don't really know them, you know what I mean? But it is something I've just learned to just pick up. Like, nah, we wouldn't connect. We wouldn't click.
Your discernment has always, even when we were 13, 14, has always been there. That is literally a gift from God that he gave to you at such a young age. Wouldn't you agree, Shayla? Like he's always been very discerning in how you move with people. And of course that shaped your experiences. And yeah, that's an amazing trait that we all just don't necessarily, I don't know. God just placed that extra on you. I mean, I think we all have the ability to have it, but there was something about you at a very young age that you just got people. And if you didn't like it, you weren't moving with it.
I move around. You know what I mean? And that's just how it is. Because I believe one thing about me is that I've always understood cause and effect and consequences. You know what I'm saying? I'm real big on that. Like even to this day, I teach it to my children. They'll tell you they've been learning since 2-3 years old. So now when you hear them speak, they just know every single action that you do in life. I don't care if it's what time you wake up, what time you go to bed. It all has some form of consequences. It could be a positive one, it could be a negative one, but everything you do, every choice that you make has an effect. You know what I mean? And once you understand that, you make different choices. So when you ultimately, if you are a thinker, or overthinker, you know what I'm saying? Some people like to call me, I think enough to where I don't have to go through the stuff that a lot of people have done, my peers. I've never had to go through a lot of it. I don't know what it's like to have a terrible woman. I've never, in my experience of life, I'm about to be 40 years old. In my experience of life, I don't know what it's like to have just a terrible woman that just bring me drama and all. I don't know what that's like. Because I've always stirred away from those type of women. I could just see it right away. Like, no, she gonna be one of those. And that's that. You know what I mean? So I forgot what the question was. I go on and on.
No, it wasn't a question. It was a statement. I love it. Thank you.
You know what I mean? So I think, choosing the people pretty much who you're around. You know what I mean? I think that is key to life. You know what I mean? And I owe a lot of it, I say, to my mother, because my mother was such a solid woman. You know what I mean? So that's what I grew up looking to gauge women off of. You know what I mean? So if you don't got some of those qualities that I see my mama have, my mama was always a loving person. I don't know my mama really arguing with people. She was always seemed to be a peaceful woman. You know what I mean? And so I deal in peace more than anything. I choose peace over chaos any day.
Yeah. That's so good. Well, we're coming to a close. I have so many other questions, but I don't want to bleed through y'all time. So in closing, I'm gonna give it to you, Shayla. So these are some of the questions that I'm gonna start asking people, because I want people to pour into themselves before they leave my platform. I think it's super important. And so the first question is, what is one thing that you absolutely love about yourself?
One thing that I absolutely love about me is the fact that I have always been a woman who marched to the beat of her own drum. I've always been somebody who didn't go along with the crowd. I've always been Shayla. And it took a while for me to really understand that, to know that, to love that. But it's funny because I think I've grown so much, which in so many ways I have. But the beautiful process is like the reflections that I get from people who knew me in middle school and high school. And they're like, you've always been this. Like, you've always had this amazing personality. You've always been this. And I remember back to those times when I was like, I was so insecure. I was so unsure of myself. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I feel like, I finally come into my own. And they were like, you've always been there.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's amazing to me, because I didn't see it, but other people have always seen it. And so that's one of the big things that I love about myself, is the fact that like I have been able to more than likely, more confident than not confident, but confidently walk the path that was less chosen. I was always going left when everybody else was going right. And it's worked out really well for me.
And the second question is, what piece of advice would you give your younger self in relation to self-love?
What I would tell my younger self is that no one else is going to do this for you. Like, no amount of money, no amount of cute guy, no amount of praise from parents and loved ones and jobs and anything is going to do the job of you loving you first. And we all go through our own experience in regards to that, like to learn the lesson. But I would definitely tell my younger self is like, start with you. Like all this other stuff is going to be there, but start with you, love you, enjoy you, and the world will actually come to you. You don't have to go to the world.
Yeah. Knowledge born. What is one thing you absolutely love about yourself?
My honesty with myself. You know what I mean? Which allows me to be honest with other people. You know what I mean? If I'm happy, I'm happy. If I'm sad, I tell you that. If things not going well, I tell you that. Because I have no problem with being concerned about people's judgment of me. You know what I mean? Because I am who I am. And I like who I am.
You damn Geminis. Y'all love y'all.
Hey, Jim!
I just feel like y'all got a little
here.
advantage over us because y'all don't give a shit. Damn.
No, never.
You know what? I think we care. I'm a carer.
Oh, for sure.
I care. You know what I'm saying? I care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I'm just honest with myself because I understand that we all, when it comes to emotions and all these types, we all go through stuff.
Yes.
All of us. There's not one person that hasn't been through something. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I can be transparent with this because I know you're going through it too, or you have been through. You know what I mean? So a lot of people don't want to be honest because they're afraid of people's judgment. I'm just, hey, delete me.
Yeah.
Delete me off whatever platform you want because I am who I am and I just like who I am. So that's one of the main things for me is just honesty and then also empathy. Like I'm very empathetic with other people and beings on the planet. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And what piece of advice would you give your younger self about self-love?
I say to be more secure in yourself and be yourself. You know what I mean? Be yourself. You know what I'm saying? People might laugh when it's different from you, but at the end of the day, I look at it like sometimes you're different because the world just needs to catch up. You're farther ahead already. You know what I mean? And sometimes you have children, especially at that time. You know what I'm saying? Everything, when I tell you everything that is trendy now is who I've been, and people used to laugh at it 20, 25, you know what I mean? Whether it be how people talking, thinking, eating, all this type of stuff. And it was fun back then. So sometimes when I just sit with myself and be like, oh no, you had it right. You know what I mean? You was just mentally probably just a little bit more ahead of the curve. You know what I mean? But I would tell myself, man, more so anything than is security and be yourself, but also allow people to be who they gonna be. You know what I mean? Because in my younger years, I used to try to change people's thoughts based on what worked for me. You know what I mean? And you just can't do that. So I would have learned that earlier. You know what I mean? I would have learned that way earlier. But for the most part, yeah, man, just be secure within yourself enough to just be who you are.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I feel like you both are kind of saying the same thing about, you know, telling your younger self. And I would echo both of your messaging, which is I would tell myself to love myself earlier, genuinely, and to take care of myself mentally, physically, and emotionally, which is something that I have recently discovered and just over, let's say, the last 4 or 5 years, right? But nothing more than over the last year and a half have I really transformed into trying to genuinely figure out who Erika is and be okay with that. And that also means isolation sometimes.
Yeah.
Also moving different. The groups look different. The conversations look different, but it's also okay because it brings peace. It brings me peace and it brings me my own internal happiness. So also hanging out with yourself. I would probably tell my younger self, you are your best company, baby.
Yep.
You're your best company. You better enjoy, take a trip by yourself, you know, be safe, but take a trip by yourself, go to the movies, go to the bar, go to church, go wherever and enjoy you. You are the most important person in your life and you cannot give anybody anything that you can't give yourself. So thank you guys so much for this conversation. I feel like we're gonna have to run this back.
Oh, for sure.
There's so much. Yeah, there's so much.
I can't ever get through my questions. And a lot of it is because I'm trying to time this for an hour. because a lot of people after an hour, they like, oh, they still on there. Okay, hey y'all. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. But 30 minutes wouldn't have been enough. 45 minutes wouldn't have been enough. So we'll have to run this back if you guys don't mind. But thank you for your knowledge and thank you for your beauty, Shayla, and your expertise on so many different areas. I love you guys. And thank y'all. Thank you to everybody that joined. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, share. I'll be dropping knowledge information in the inbox. Shayla, as always, she's not unfamiliar to this platform, so I'm sure y'all have this information. But thank you for sharing your Sunday with me, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.